Now, I'm going to draw your attention to a particular patient that came into the Brigham and Women's Hospital on January 24th of 2023. That patient was Lindsay Clancy. Do you recall encountering this patient on January 25th of 2023?
Yes.
And what did you do as it pertained to the care and treatment of this patient?
I received the information from the shift before me, formulated a plan, examined her, assessed her, staffed that plan with the attending physician, and executed that plan throughout the day.
And fair to say this particular patient had injuries that you were directed to observe, review, form that plan on?
Correct.
What were the injuries?
She had multiple injuries. The most acute were injuries that were requiring consultation with other services, and the ones that I directly managed were the lacerations to her wrists and just her wrists, actually.
And as far as when you say she had other acute injuries, you were not involved in the care of her for those, correct?
I was involved in the care that involved consulting other services to manage those things, yes.
Okay, and as far as any sort of repair work that you were doing as a physician's assistant working with the trauma surgeons, what repair work were you assigned to do?
Laceration repair.
And on this particular patient, where were the injuries or lacerations that you were going to repair?
She had multiple lacerations on both of her wrists. She had superficial on her neck, which I did not repair.
Okay. And as it pertained to the wrists, did you go through that process of observing, reviewing, coming up with a plan, and then repairing those injuries?
Yes.
And were you directed to do that by any particular doctor?
Not necessarily directed. A lot of those things fall within my scope, and since they were less acute, they kind of fell down the chain to me.
Okay. And you're aware that she was being seen and treated by a host of other doctors, nurses, an entire team?
Yes.
Okay. As it pertains to the wrist injuries, what did you do to examine those areas?
The first thing I do is assess the location, then I assess the severity, whether it requires intervention by someone other than myself. In this instance, it did not. So then I proceed with just kind of protocol laceration repair.
When would it be a situation where you'd need somebody else to intervene?
If it required surgical intervention or suturing repair beyond my skill set, in this instance, it did not.
Okay. And so referring to these particular injuries, when you observed them, did you observe any areas of active bleeding?
No.
And fair to say they had been treated by nurses and other staff prior to you encountering these injuries, correct?
Yes, they were dressed and covered before I got there.
Now, when you assessed them, you noted that they were bilateral, correct?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means on both sides of the body, so both wrists.
Okay. And so referring to the right wrist, what were your observations of the injuries to the right wrist?
The right wrist, as far as my reference to the note, is that she had a few lacerations, one of which was severe and deep enough to require repair.
And fair to say that that right wrist injury was, the one that you repaired was 3 centimeters deep?
Approximately, if that's what my note says, then that's what it was.
Okay. And on a wrist, or this area of the wrist where you observed the injuries, that depth of 3 centimeters, did that require further surgical intervention, or were you able to suture that area?
I was able to suture that area. As far as what happened subsequent to that, I wasn't there, so I'm not sure.
Okay. And how many sutures did you use to repair that injury?
I believe 3.
And in relation to any other cuts or lacerations that were on that right wrist, did any other of those lacerations require suturing?
No.
How did you treat those other injuries?
Just irrigation, meaning cleaning them out, and then using a type of tape to close them shut.
And that's generally referred to as a steri-strip, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You're not a doctor, you're a physician assistant, is that what it is?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And how long had you worked for Brigham and Women's prior to seeing Lindsay Clancy that on January 24, 23?
I believe I was in my second year of employment with Brigham and Women's.
Okay, and you got to keep your voice up because people back here have to be able to hear you too, okay?
I believe I was in my second year of employment at Brigham and Women's.
You're not suggesting for 1 minute that after you did your butterfly stitches, Lindsay could have got up and walked out the door of the hospital, right?
No, sir.
And would you agree with me that, in fact, she was critically ill when you saw her, right?
Yes, sir.
And she certainly wasn't critically ill from COVID or a flu or something like that, right?
No, not to my knowledge.
You know that there are notes that are prepared for the records from the hospital. For example, on January 24, 2023, hospital admission form is filled out. Do you know a Dr. Jeffrey Andrew Anderson?
Yes.
And he was, what was his position that night?
He was one of the trauma surgeons and also one of the intensivists, the attending physicians in the ICU.
All right. And you've had a chance to review a number of records and photographs with the DAs, I imagine, right?
I've reviewed my own procedure note.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means I reviewed the note that I wrote myself regarding the laceration repairs.
Okay, is that the note that indicates that it appears as though that, for example, on the right upper extremity, there's a 3.5 centimeter deep laceration on the volar aspect of the wrist?
I don't believe that I commented saying volar specifically, so I don't know if that's in regards to my note, but I believe my note did say about 3 centimeters deep, yes.
Okay, so do you recall indicating in your note that it was superficial laceration, or did you indicate that it was a deep laceration?
I indicated that some of them were superficial, and the one that I repaired in particular was 3 centimeters deep.
And you've had occasion to speak to the prosecutors on this case, and they've asked you about the superficial injury to her wrist, right?
Correct.
In addition to the, as indicated on page 75 of the Brigham and Women's Hospital record that I have, and we can fix that with other records if it doesn't coincide, there's a note from Dr. Anderson that the right upper extremity, 3.5 centimeter deep laceration, volar aspect of the wrist. Left upper extremity, 2 centimeter deep laceration on the volar aspect of the wrist. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you were able to, as you say, clean it up with saline or whatever, and then you stitched up what you had to stitch up, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you have anything to do with the massive transfusion that she had?
No, sir.
Do you have anything to do with the treatment of the transected spine that she had, the shattered spine?
No, sir.
Do you have anything whatsoever to do with the insertion of tubes on both sides of her body and the draining of the blood that had pooled in her middle cavity?
Just the management of those tubes after, but not the placement.
Okay. So you were there while that was done?
I was there managing once they had been placed, but I was not there for the placement of them.
Okay,
no.
But you knew that they were in there, that they were draining the blood? Okay.
Yes.
And do you know where the blood came from that was in her middle extremity?
I don't know specifically. I'd have to refer back to the imaging reports.
In any event, you know that shortly thereafter she coded, right?
Yes.
Were you there for that?
No, sir.
And basically, that means that the patient has, in effect, died from cardiac arrest, right?
Not necessarily died, but their heart has stopped beating for that
And then
portion.
there's the crash teams and everybody hopefully revives the person, right?
Correct.
And you guys did that, or they did, and they were successful reviving her, correct?
Now, as far as the testing that was done, you received results to the positive benzodiazepines in the screen, and then it was confirmed, correct?
Correct.
How many benzodiazepines were present?
There were at least 4 or 5.
Okay. And were you able to get concentration levels from the blood samples after that screen and the confirmatory tests?
Yes.
And again, already in evidence, but the toxicology report for item 10-101 on the blood with those benzodiazepines, there's diazepam, correct?
Yes.
Norodiazepam,
Yes.
oxazepam,
Yep.
temazepam,
Yes.
and lorazepam.
Yes.
And as far as your review of the testing on those substances and the concentration levels, did anything about any of those levels stand out to you as far as based on your training and experience?
Only that they were reportable.
Okay. Are you familiar whether they're in any sort of therapeutic level for any of those drugs?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You mentioned there were also other substances that were detected in the general unknown screen, correct?
Yes.
And that would have been mirtazapine, lamotrigine, quetiapine metabolite, and trazodone.
Yes.
And was your lab able to get concentration levels for those?
No.
And so what did you do, or what was done with the samples or the specimens as it pertained to those substances?
To my knowledge, they were sent to NMS labs.
And you've previously stated that you are trained on effects of certain types of drugs, but your limitation is you don't know how it affects a particular individual, correct?
Correct.
These particular 5 benzodiazepines, do you know where they fall in the type of drug, what the general effects of those drugs are?
Benzos tend to be central nervous system depressants.
Okay. And the ones that were detected, but you don't have the levels for mirtazapine and the list I read, what category are those drugs?
Those tend to also be central nervous system depressants. Quetiapine in particular is usually known to treat bipolar disorder or schizophrenia.
And as it pertains to the presence of the 5 benzodiazepines, your testing is limited in that you don't know whether that was from one medication or multiple medications, correct?
Correct, because the nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam tend to be metabolites of diazepam.
No further questions.
But usually,
That's fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
but you have the test tubes and you know that it's Lindsay Clancy's blood, right?
yes,
And you'd agree with me that that's a fairly large number of drugs and metabolites that are in that particular blood sample, right?
I have seen more.
I'm sure. But nevertheless, that's still a large number of drugs, though, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
And you don't know, as a working your job for the state police at that time, you don't know how many of these drugs are coming from scripts, prescriptions, and things of that nature, right?
No.
One of the things that you had mentioned were metabolites, and you said that because the district attorney asked you about different benzodiazepines, this PAM, that PAM, this PAM, that PAM, and then you responded and said, yeah, but there's a lot of metabolites involved in that, right? What does that mean?
So a metabolite is just a breakdown of anything usually by the body. So you have what we call a parent drug, and the body, if you ingest that, the body would then break it down or put it into a more digestible form in order to get rid of it.
Okay. So when you have a number of metabolites, for example, someone may have a prescription for amitriptyline or a prescription for Zoloft or Ativan or something. And they take the pill and it's in their system, and then over time it would metabolize and there'd be different PAMs or whatever it is that would break down into the blood. Is that right?
Yes.
How about tetrahydrocannabinols, THC, marijuana? What was the level on that?
To my knowledge, we didn't find any.
No marijuana, right?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Pertains to the requested testing that was done, was it that panel that you described, or was it more specific testing?
This is what we call direct testing, where they requested just 4 specific drugs to be tested for.
And what were the 4 specific tests requested?
Lamotrigine, mirtazapine, quetiapine, and trazodone.
Are you familiar with those substances or those drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you reviewed all of the data and information done at your lab in regards to these tests, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they able to identify concentration levels in the sample that was submitted for each one of those 4 substances?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the first, can you tell us what the result was?
Would you like me just run down the list?
Sure.
Okay. We detected lamotrigine in a concentration of 6.1 micrograms per milliliter. mirtazapine at a concentration of 200 nanograms per milliliter, quetiapine at a concentration of 1,800 nanograms per milliliter, and trazodone at a concentration of 0.44 micrograms per milliliter. And these were all in blood.
In blood. And so with each drug that you just listed, are you familiar with what the common name is for the drugs?
I'm not always that great with common names, but I can wing it. Okay.
Well, the lamotrigine, and forgive me if I botched
That's okay.
the pronunciation, that's also referred to commonly as Lamictal.
It is correct, Lamictal.
What kind of drug is that?
It's typically used as an anti-seizure medication. So if somebody has a seizure disorder, it can be prescribed to alleviate seizures, but it is also used for bipolar disorder as well.
And mirtazapine, fair to say that's commonly referred to as Remeron.
Correct.
And what kind of drug is that?
That is typically an antidepressant.
And quetiapine, what's that common drug?
Quetiapine is known as Seroquel.
And fair to say that's an antipsychotic as well for bipolar?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with whether that often can be prescribed in low doses for sleep?
It is. It can be for insomnia.
And trazodone, what's the common name for trazodone, if you know?
I am drawing a blank on the trazodone.
If I suggest trazamine, is that familiar?
Not the one that I'm most familiar with, and I apologize.
Okay. That's okay, but you're familiar with trazodone?
Correct, yeah.
And what class of drug is that?
That's an antidepressant.
Now, in your review of the levels that were detected in these 4 tests for each of these substances, do any of these levels appear to be outside therapeutic concentration levels?
The only one that's a little elevated would be the quetiapine.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a very
Dr. Brower, before we broke, we mentioned the term therapeutic concentration. You familiar with that term?
Correct.
What does that mean?
It's the typical concentration that one would achieve when they're taking the medication or drug as indicated by their prescriber.
And are you familiar with toxic concentrations or suicidal concentrations?
I am.
And what does that mean?
Those are concentrations that could lead to adverse events and potentially death.
Now, in relation to the 4 substances that were tested at the NMS laboratory, you identified the levels for each of the 4 substances. Were any of those concentration levels considered within therapeutic concentration?
It would all be in what I would say a therapeutic concentration, except maybe the quetiapine, which is slightly elevated.
Okay. And in your experience as a forensic toxicologist, have you had the occasion to review cases, post-mortem cases in which suicide was a mechanism of death where the person consumed medication?
Absolutely, yes.
And so that level of the quetiapine at the 800 nanograms per milliliter, would that have been in that toxic or suicidal level?
No, ma'am.
Would you generally expect to see that significantly greater in a suicide case?
Typically, quetiapines in suicide cases might be in the, close to 10,000 nanograms per milliliter. Usually people take handfuls of pills when they're trying to harm themselves and take their own life, and this is not consistent with that.
Now the follow-up. So
I'm sorry.
What are the things that are the unknowns for you when you're just looking at data?
When we say that we can't do toxicology in a vacuum. You can't know everything about the case just by looking at numbers on the toxicology report and drugs on a toxicology report. You need other information to have an informed opinion. In the postmortem world, that would be the investigation itself, the history of the case, the scene findings, interviews with, families and friends of the decedent, as well as autopsy findings as well. In a case like this where it's not a decedent, and the person is alive, you still need to know some facts of the case, some sort of history of the case, like what happened. So just numbers on a page, you can just make very generalized types of opinions, such as that looks to be therapeutic, it looks to be high, it looks to be low, and then again, just the general effects on the drugs on people.
And in this particular instance, you were not provided any further information about the case or the investigation in order to make any more opinions about effects.
I knew nothing about this case until we spoke, I think it was probably a few weeks ago.
And as far as the information available to you, you only had the data from the specimen that was tested, correct?
That is correct. Just these 4 drugs that were requested to be tested for.
Okay. And would any of the combination of these drugs cause a person to stop breathing?
It's possible, especially the mirtazapine, quetiapine, the trazodone, and then the 2 other benzodiazepines. Those are all central nervous system depressants, so they could, in large combinations or large concentrations and in combination with each other, cause central nervous system depression, which could reduce people's respiration rates.
But in the levels that you observed in the testing that your lab did, as well as what I just showed you from Exhibit 183, is there anything about those concentration levels that would give you a sense that the person could have stopped breathing as a result of these?
Not necessarily, but if I had the information that, a patient presented to an emergency department and they had labored breathing and weren't breathing adequately, and I had this information, then you could probably tie all that together. But without that extra information, then generally no.
Based on the levels alone, you can't give any sort of opinion?
I would like to not.
Okay. And finally, are you familiar with the drug Narcan?
I am.
And what kind of effect does the drug Narcan have on a person who has consumed these drugs, if any?
Just these drugs that we've talked about here today?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely nothing.
Can you explain to us why it is that Narcan wouldn't have an effect?
Narcan is an opioid overdose reversal agent. It is an opioid antagonist. So it binds to the opioid receptors. So it doesn't allow other opioids like, say, fentanyl or oxycodone to bind to those receptors to have, to exert its effects. So it only works on opioids. None of these drugs work on the opioid receptors, so Narcan would have no effect whatsoever on these drugs.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Reddington.
Good morning.
Dr. Brower, so one of the things that you had mentioned is that you, and I think I would quote you, I would like not to give an opinion without basically the underlying facts. In other words, what you're saying is that the numbers alone do not tell the tale of what happened to a particular individual, right?
Correct. They don't tell the entire story.
Right. And you're, for NMS Laboratory, you were retained or working for the DA's office, these people here, right?
That was the submitting agency, correct.
And they certainly were not constrained from picking up the phone and calling you and telling you that this is blood from a woman that threw herself out a window and tried to kill herself after cutting her wrists and her neck. They could have told you that, right?
Well, overruled.
It's possible that does happen in rare occasions in high-profile cases.
Right. And so that would have been something, for example, the facts that you wanted to know, that you would have liked to have known to kind of round out your opinion about the actual level of the drugs in the blood that you examined, right?
It's not necessary.
Well, it's not necessary, but you did indicate that you would like to not give an opinion without the facts.
Correct.
Okay.
Today.
From the witness stand.
Correct. I don't have all the information.
Of course.
Entire question?
Sure. What is lamotrigine?
Lamotrigine is typically used as an anti-seizure medication and could also be used for bipolar disorder.
Okay. Do you have the results for your lab in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Toxicology? Yeah, you can read along just so you can refresh your memory if it helps. The lamotrigine, It says 6.1. What does that mean?
6.1 micrograms per milliliter. So there were 6.1 micrograms of lamotrigine per milliliter of blood.
All right. Is that above therapeutic, below therapeutic, or therapeutic?
It's right in the middle of the therapeutic range.
So if somebody had a prescription, for example, for that narcotic or that drug, then they were taking the drug according to the recommended dose, right?
And that's what it would appear to me if they were prescribed it, correct?
How about the mirtazapine?
The mirtazapine also looks to be probably used appropriately as prescribed.
And you need a prescription for that, don't you?
Yes, you need a prescription for all four of these drugs.
Okay. And what is there another name for mirtazapine?
Remeron.
Remeron. All right. And what is the purpose, or what do you use Remeron for?
It's an antidepressant.
How about the quietapine is the number 3?
The quetiapine is also known as Seroquel, and that is generally used as an antipsychotic.
And what does that mean when you say an antipsychotic? What does that mean?
So somebody has psychotic episodes, say like hallucinations or just not seeing reality like quote normal person would, they could be prescribed quetiapine as an antipsychotic to try to kind of level out their brain chemistry.
And what was the result on the quetiapine?
1,800 nanograms per milliliter.
Now, is that within therapeutic? Is that below or high?
It looks high to me, depending upon the dosage.
Okay. And trazodone is the next one. What is that?
Trazodone is also an antidepressant.
And what's the result on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. 0.44 micrograms per milliliter.
Okay. And is that therapeutic, below therapeutic, or above therapeutic?
I would say that's a therapeutic concentration.
Okay. So basically, with the exception of the quetiapine that was 1,800 nanograms per... What is a nanogram? What does that mean? Nanograms per milliliter. What does that mean?
It's a very, very small amount. It's 1/millionth of a milligram.
Okay. And that's how you measure the quantity of a particular substance that would be in a person's blood, correct?
In the blood, correct.
So on the quietapine at 1,800 nanograms per milliliter, that's the only one that was not therapeutic. That was a little higher than therapeutic. Is that correct?
Correct. It's approximately maybe double what you might expect. So it's, when I say it's a little elevated, it's not in a concentration that I would consider to be necessarily toxic or lethal.
Okay.
One here. All right, so this is a stipulation regarding the DNA comparisons for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain. It was marked A. Now, in the above captioned matter, the parties agree to the following facts as it pertains to the DNA comparisons for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain A in the basement. Number 1, forensic scientist Emily Oliver reviewed and interpreted the data relating to the question items, parentheses, item 2-4, blue exercise band, and item 3-3, the red-brown stain A from the basement floor, close parentheses, and conducted comparison analysis to the known standards in this case. Number 2, the parties agreed to the following conclusions regarding comparison analysis of these items. A, item 2-4.1.1, sample from the ends of the blue exercise band. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. There are 5 individuals who have a likelihood ratio that indicates an inclusion in the profile. They are Dawson Clancy, Callan Clancy, Cora Clancy, Lindsay Clancy, and Patrick Clancy. B, item 2-4.2.1, sample from the middle of the blue exercise band. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. Callan Clancy is included as a major contributor. And C, item 3-3.1, sample of swabs from the red-brown stain A on the basement floor. The DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. Cora Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. So that's the stipulation that the parties have agreed to. All right.
A potential contributor.
Both propositions, either 2 contributors or 3 contributors, had high inclusionary stats for Dawson Clancy, correct?
Okay. What's a nonillion?
Nonillion is a very large number.
Do you know how many people are on Earth?
I know it's...
This is typical DNA gobbledygook at this point, Judge. I
Well, I object to his objection.
That's
Ridiculous.
overruled. Go ahead.
They're going to talk
You can
about
ask.
non-millions and how many.
Counsel break.
Thank you, Your Honor. 1.7 nonillion. Is that more than there are people on the Earth?
That is more individuals that are on the Earth, but I would like to clarify that a likelihood ratio is not a random match probability or a rarity of that profile. A likelihood ratio is a ratio that describes the probability of observing the DNA profile if a certain person is included versus the probability of observing that DNA profile if a certain person is excluded or if it is another unknown, unrelated individual.
And you said nonillion is a very high number, correct?
Yes, that's a very large number in my opinion.
So it's a very large probability that Dawson Clancy is a contributor to that mixture.
It is a large likelihood ratio that provides support for the inclusion of Dawson Clancy to the profile. Say anything about those people being in the mixture together.
Okay. And moving on to some other work you did in this case, specifically some swabs from the back side of the house, some shingles on 47 Summer Street in Duxbury, items 14-1, 14-2, and 14-3. Did you do work on those samples as well and compare them to the known profiles of Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy?
Your Honor, may I refer to my second report for these items? Thank you. Yes, I did work on those items in my second report.
And directing your attention to item 14-1, a swab from stain B on the backside of the house, 47 Summer Street. What were your findings regarding that swab?
The female DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. The DNA profile from this item is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, and Patrick Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile.
And so unlike the samples and profiles we talked about earlier, this sample 14-1, the swab from stain B, wasn't a mixture, correct? It was just one person's DNA?
Correct. This was a single contributor profile.
And your findings was that Lindsay Clancy is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than an unknown, unrelated individual.
The DNA profile from this item is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile.
And so it's support that she's included as a contributor to this profile of one person, correct?
Yes, there is support with a likelihood ratio of 18 octillion for Lindsay Clancy.
And the other members of the family were
during the course of the time in which you were at the Clancy's house, fair to say from September to early December is the time that you were there, 3 days a week?
Yes.
Did you come to find out that Lindsay was having some issues?
I did.
Did she talk to you about that?
She did.
And what did she tell you about her issues?
She shared with me that she was suffering from postpartum.
Now, when she shared this information with you, had you noticed anything different about her demeanor or her presentation around the house?
I didn't at all.
Had her trips out of the house when you were there stopped or decreased during that time period?
No.
And did she tell you that at that time that she was seeing some doctors?
She did.
What about medication? Did you have any conversations with her about her taking medication during that time period?
I think we talked about she was going to stop a medication because she was trying to stop nursing.
That she was going to stop medication or she was going to start medication?
I think she was trying to stop something because she was going to, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
She was not going to nurse Callan anymore because she was going to be starting a new medication.
Did she ever give you any details about the medication?
She didn't.
Do you recall seeing prescription bottles around the house?
I did.
Did you ever learn from Lindsay that she had gone to the emergency room in November of 2022?
No.
How about gone to the emergency room in December of 2022?
No.
Did anything about your arrangements with coming on the 3 days, caring for Callan and sometimes Cora, did any of that ever change because of what she reported to you about having postpartum?
Only at the end of my time with them.
Okay, we'll get there in a
Okay.
second. But did you have the occasion to observe her interacting with the children?
I did.
And did you have any concerns about her interacting with the children?
None at all. She was a wonderful mom.
Did she have any further conversation with you about maybe more specific sleep or sleep issues that she had been having during the time period you were nannying for them?
She did.
And what did she tell you about that?
She told me she was having difficulties sleeping and that she was sleeping in the basement.
Be overbearing or
Well, not at all.
you didn't find that to be controlling, that she was trying to exert a control over you, did you?
Not at all.
Felt that was appropriate for her to tell you about the cutting up of the vegetables and the squares and things?
Yes.
She also told you during that period of time that she was unable to sleep. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Told you that lack of sleep was becoming a significant impact on her life, and that she had to see doctors and was on medication for that, right?
Correct.
Again, the troopers were questioning you and directing you on your questions or your answers. And at one point, do you recall saying to the trooper, I loved my Lindsay?
I loved my Lindsay.
Yeah.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay, did you?
Do I love Lindsay?
Yeah.
I did love Lindsay. I did.
Did she ever send you any videos, or did she ever respond to your emails or videos?
Yes, she responded to most of my texts she responded to.
Did she seem to be appreciative of your work?
Yes, very much so.
And in fact, she was pretty vocal about that. She thought the world of you, right?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Redirect?
Just one question. In all that she told you about postpartum sleep and all that you observed in the house, did you ever have any conversations with her about intrusive thoughts or thoughts of harming yourself?
No.
Thank you. Okay.
Anything on that?
No.
All right, you may step down. Thank you.